Welcome to immigrationquestion.com, your trusted guide in the world of U.S. immigration. We provide clear immigration news and insights and connect you with experienced attorneys who can answer your questions and guide you through the process. From visas to green cards, asylum to citizenship, we help you find the right legal expertise so you can move forward with confidence. Immigrationquestion.com, real news, real answers, real quick. Stay tuned. We go live in 30 seconds.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live webinar brought to you by immigrationquestion.com, your trusted source for immigration news, expert legal insights, and real-time conversations with licensed immigration attorneys. My name is Max Castro, and I'll be your host for today's important session, Asylum in 2025, What's Changed and How It Affects You. The rules surrounding asylum has always been complex, but in 2025, new policies, court decisions, and shifting timelines have made the process even more challenging to navigate. For many asylum seekers, the stakes couldn't be higher. One mistake could mean losing protection altogether. That's why we're here today, to bring you clarity, strategies, and a sense of direction. We are honored to be joined today by attorney Gerald Karikari, a New York-based immigration attorney admitted to practice before the United States Courts of Appeals, the First Circuit. Originally from Ghana, attorney Karikari understands firsthand the challenges immigrants face. Beyond his legal practice, he also serves in community leadership and business, making him uniquely equipped to speak on both the legal and human sides of asylum. Attorney Karikari, we are so pleased to have you with us today. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Before we dive in, a quick but essential reminder, immigrationquestion.com is a two-in-one platform that connects users with licensed immigration attorneys. We are not a law firm and we are not affiliated with AILA or USCIS. All legal services are provided independently by attorneys in our network. Let's get started with today's discussion. Can you explain what significant changes have taken place in the U.S. asylum policy over the past year, attorney?
Wow, that's a very big question right there. So many changes and they're happening now. So let's start with the current state of affairs with just the fee. Prior to this year, asylum application form I-589 was free of charge. Now it costs $100 to apply, and every year your case is pending, you will have to renew that right to apply by paying another $100. So that's one of the first obstacles that's been created, is this idea that asylum applicants must pay. And I would tell you that new case law has come down suggesting that the mere fact that you have an attorney is reason to deny any fee waivers. In the past, individuals were able to request a waiver of any fees associated with immigration applications by showing that their expenses way outpace their income. And unfortunately, there is a presumption, according to the court this year, which didn't exist the hundreds of years or tens of years of asylum law. Never was it assumed that because you had an attorney, you couldn't get a waiver of your fees. So that fee is one issue. Then the idea that you have to apply within 1 year has always been the rule. But now there's a hyper enforcement of the notion. It's called the Circumvention of Lawful Pathways law, which says that if you stopped in multiple countries prior to coming to America, you should have applied for asylum in one of them. And if you get denied, then you can keep coming to America. So if you don't have that explanation of having applied someplace else and then been denied, you will then have to deal with the CBP One app, which was an application on your phone that would allow you to make an appointment with the Border Patrol people to give them your credible, fair reasons why you're afraid to go back. And so if you came after May 11th in 2023, you are supposed to submit a request. If you do not submit a request on the CBP One app, you need a very good reason why you did not schedule an appointment, such as having an emergent situation, a health challenge, or fear for your life in Mexico or any other border location. And so that's just the tip of the iceberg as it relates to asylum claims and the procedural part of it. So, for example, you would have to know that the judge can deny your asylum case even before you have a final hearing. That means that if the judge looks at your application and you haven't written down all the reasons why you are afraid to go back to your country, you haven't specified the dates and the times and the reasons that you are afraid. If that is not in your application, your case can be denied. And so therefore you won't be able to get asylum. Your case will end right there. And so that's the big challenge that we're seeing. And so all of these are new regulations and changes to the asylum law that are going to be very, very challenging to overcome, which means the earlier you get an attorney, the earlier you're working with someone who has a full breadth of knowledge about asylum law, the better chances you have of actually even being able to stay in the system. Because everyone knows that there was a plan to withdraw asylum cases. The government would say they don't want to continue with the charges against you, and the judge would say, well, if the government doesn't want to to continue with their charges, they want to withdraw all the charges that you aren't from here, that you don't have a legal claim to American citizenship, you didn't enter legally, and you really should be returned to whatever country you came from. Then if there's no charge, your case is going to be dismissed and closed. That means that your asylum application is not pending, and people were leaving out of that room not knowing what had just happened to them. So that when you walked out of that courtroom and your case was dismissed, the charges were withdrawn, you now had nothing pending before immigration, and the ICE officials could come and collect you, take you to jail, and kind of force you to do the whole thing over. So that's just, like I said, the tip of the iceberg in terms of the amount of changes that are happening to the system.
Most definitely. And thank you for the concise updates, attorney. How have recent court rulings or executive actions affected asylum seekers in 2025?
Wow. Obviously, the idea that you may get detained and have to do your case from jail. And I hope everybody's hearing the rumors that they're cutting out many, many ways that an immigration judge has the authority, the power to grant you bail and get out. That has pretty much been taken away. And now the only people who would release you would be ICE. And unfortunately, ICE is not in the releasing kind of mood. So not too many people will qualify. You really need extenuating circumstances like impending health, children who are being not taken care of, a whole host of different things in order to hope that ICE would release you. But you won't be able to go to the judge in most cases. The people who have an opportunity to see a judge about bond are people who originally entered with a visa. If you entered without inspection or you were caught at the border, the judge does not have jurisdiction or authority to release you. And so you must be prepared to do your case from inside of the jail. You must have people and friends who are going to help you communicate, contact individuals who know your story of why you're afraid and can provide you proof that you are a member of the political party, pictures of the injuries you sustained. They can get you a medical certificate to show that you went to get medical treatment for the injuries you sustained at the hands of your persecutor. All of those things you'll have to do from within the jail. Otherwise, your other option is to ask to be allowed to leave voluntarily, to pay for your own ticket and go back home. So that's how it's really affecting people because of this.
With your experience, attorney, what impact do these changes have on individuals already in US with pending asylum applications?
Right. Yeah. Depending on what is written on your notice to appear, that's that charging document that says you entered on such and such date. You are from this country. You don't have legal right to be in this country. That document will say when you entered, and that will tell you whether or not the circumvention of lawful pathways regulation, whether that applies to you. It will tell you whether or not they're going to ask you if your country conditions in your country have changed and whether or not they can safely send you back. Whether or not you're going to be sent to a third country, whether your country will accept you back if you are deported, or whether or not they can send you to a country in Africa, El Salvador, or some other place where those governments have agreed to take deportees from America. So it is very concerning, and people have to be aware of these challenges.
Thank you for clarifying that for us, attorney. So, how are border enforcement measures shaping asylum claims, particularly for those arriving at the southern border?
Right. So if you realize that when you get to the southern border, you're not going to be released into the America for the purposes of um, continuing with your case, and you will have to do your case from inside the jail, then you have to be connected to someone who knows a lawyer who can look at your case. Sometimes people have valid claims, but they don't realize what makes their claim valid. And so many times people think that a reason they have is what's going to get them permission to stay in America. But in fact, that issue may not even qualify. So, as you all may know, that there are only four or reasons why a person will be allowed to stay in America and receive protection from the United States government by allowing them to stay here and be safe from the people who persecuted them back home. And those things are things like your race, your nationality, your political opinion, and the ever expanding definition, which is your social group. Particular social groups that have been persecuted by individuals or the government, they had a larger opportunity in previous administrations. But the Trump administration is saying that that definition has to be narrowed and made smaller so that we started with, let's say, members of the LGBTQ community. They were a particular social group that needed defending, that needed protection. And almost everywhere people could raise that issue. But now that is narrowing, and not all people who fit in it will be able to get protection. So it's important that you have an attorney by your side to say, okay, you have three reasons why you're afraid. One of them is going to qualify, and the other two are not. So don't waste valuable space on your paper, on your application form, talking about things that aren't actually going to get you. So I hear people saying, wonderful things. Oh, I was thinking I wanted to come to America because it's a land of freedom and democracy, and people treated me badly in my country. That's not a claim. That's not a reason that is listed in the law. So while I might agree with you, while I might feel for you, while it's sad, that's not going to help you stay in America. And so stop talking about it because it's not helpful. And that's where good quality legal services have to come in, and you have to have them early in your case.
Beautifully said, attorney. So, for applicants, what new documentation or preparation is now more critical than before?
Right. So every box, every section in your asylum application must be filled out. You must understand that the judge can dismiss your case because you haven't filled out all the boxes. They say that they will give you one opportunity to fix it. If you mess it up and don't fix the application, your application will be deemed either abandoned or denied, and then you will not have any chance other than to file an appeal, which is probably 1 or 2 year process in order to try to see if you can get your case back in. So that's the first thing, is meticulous attention to your asylum application, the form, and then a declaration, a separate page that says, this is when it happened. This is the date. This is what time it happened. This is the reason that it happened, right? And it goes beyond what can fit in the boxes that are in the asylum application. Additionally, I think people should be prepared again for medical documentation, pictures of their injuries, proof that they were part of a political party, or proof that they were part of a LGBTQ. So if you're doing your case in Texas, Louisiana, it's going to be harder. Those are where most of the jails are. That's where most of the detention facilities are. And the law is even tougher there than it might be in California or New York. And so people have to be able to come up with all those documents that maybe they might not need in other jurisdictions.
Thank you for providing clarity, attorney. To everyone joining us from Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and beyond, thank you for being here. Whether you're an attorney, advocate, or someone navigating asylum yourself, we're grateful to have you. Suppose this is your first time with us? Welcome. We are immigrationquestion.com, a meeting ground between immigration attorneys and individuals seeking answers to immigration questions. Our two-in-one platform is built with outstanding features to help simplify the immigration process. Though we are not affiliated with AILA, we are trusted by many AILA attorneys who use our platforms. With immigrationquestion.com, you can also ask your immigration question for free in any language and get connected with a licensed attorney for legal guidance. And yes, just like many of our users, you may also receive a free confidential initial consultation. Just visit www.immigrationquestion.com to learn more. And that's not all. We've just launched our new mobile app designed to make access even easier, whether you're a user or an attorney. We are also proud to share that immigrationquestion.com is now Better Business Bureau accredited, a recognition that reflects our commitment to honesty, transparency, and serving immigrant communities with integrity. Attorney Karikari, as both a seasoned immigration attorney and someone who has personally walked the immigrant journey, what are your thoughts on the role Immigration Question is playing today, both in supporting asylum seekers and in helping attorneys like yourself connect with the communities that you need most?
Yes, yes. I'm happy to talk about it because certainly it is challenging to overcome what people heard through the rumor mill. I know that you're watching TV and a lot of things are being said. Social media has got a lot to say about immigration. People used to say, oh, you do immigration, you must just fill out forms all day. That sounds boring. Now, when I tell people that I practice immigration law, they say, thank you for your service. Thank you so much. And I say, you're welcome. I do it because I'm an immigrant too. I do it because I feel it too. So I would tell them that a good place to come and get questions answered by licensed attorneys, to hear the different opinions, to hear the strategies, to get full understanding of what your situation is just so crucial, because when you're listening to your friend, they're not giving you all the facts, all the background, and so you're getting half the story. The Supreme Court even said it in criminal cases. They said that it's one thing to say that in general planes crash. It's another thing to say, I looked at the plane you're getting on and that plane is going to crash, right? And so you would want to know what is going on with your plane that you're getting on. You're not interested in whether or not all planes crash or it's possible for. That's what you're getting when you're talking to your friend, when you're watching social media. What you want is an attorney licensed to practice law who's going to tell you about your situation and what your chances are. And so I can't speak more highly of this platform for what it's doing for the communities that it serves.
We are grateful for you to share that, Attorney Karikari. It's encouraging to see how both immigrants, including asylum seekers and attorneys, benefit from the platform. Before we move into the Q&A, what trends or shifts should asylum seekers and their attorneys be watching for their coming months?
Oh, well, in the next few months, I believe that immigration will come out with new asylum forms. I believe that they're going to be asking about your social media handles. I think that they're going to be looking at through your social media to make sure that you have not said anything negative about the US of A, that you haven't given contradictory statements online that would make them believe that your situation isn't what you say. So that if you say that you are a gay man, then the question becomes, does your social media filled with women saying they're your girlfriend or your wife or your spouse? And so those are the types of things that your Instagram, Facebook give away. And so they may even ask you to make your social media public if it's private. And so I would definitely say be on the lookout for that requirement and start to uh, act accordingly to what is coming down the pike. Don't wait for the rules and regulations to come in and then start to try to scramble to address it. So that to me is like the number one thing that's coming up.
Very insightful. Thank you, Attorney. If you're joining us, we've been in an insightful conversation with Attorney Gerald Karikari on Asylum in 2025, what's changed and how it affects you. We're now moving on to our live Q&A segment. This is your chance to ask your own questions. Drop them in the chat or call us live at 516-703-3483. That's 516-703-3483. And we'll get to as many as possible. All right, we got our first question from Van. If I already apply asylum before, do new law affect my case? If I've already applied for asylum before, does the new law affect my case?
Some of them do and some of them don't. So you will be paying that $100 to keep your case pending. That's the first thing. If you the first original $100 for the application fee does not apply to you. If you enter the country during the time the new regulation about applying for asylum in other countries first, or using the CB1 app, that will apply to you. So it's a case by case basis. Once again, that's whether or not your plane is going to crash. That's what you need your own individual analysis of which one of the laws applies to you.
Thank you, Attorney. We have another question from Fatima. Can I do small work as I wait for asylum decision?
Well, they have become more strict about issuing work permits, but you cannot legally work until you have a work authorization. It requires 180 days of continuous uh, processing of your case. So the idea is that if you asked to change your case from New York to New Jersey, from Connecticut to Massachusetts, you have caused a delay and the clock will stop. And therefore, you will not be eligible for the work authorization until the clock has reached 180 days. When you switch, you have to get them to turn the clock back on. You have to be sure that your clock is on so that you can get the work authorization and be able to legally work, where you get your social security, preferably a driver's license or a non-driver's ID, so that you can work legally in the United States.
All right, so we have a question from Angel. Is it true that if situation in my country changes, they will cancel my asylum?
No, not so much. In asylum situations, you are going to be able to apply for refugee card. And once you have that refugee status, then you are eligible to apply subsequently for a green card. And so if you get to the green card status, you will be here permanently. You have permanent residency. So if the situation in your country doesn't change your before you get your green card, then you're safe to go ahead and continue to live here. And that's a very important part, because those who get withholding of removal or convention against torture, which is closely associated with it, but generally someone would get withholding of removal if they can prove that there's a 51% chance that they would be persecuted if they return, versus an asylum granted person has proven that there's a reasonable chance that they would get persecuted, and that reasonable chance is seen as only 10 or 20% chance. So the difference between applying within 1 year and being able to apply for asylum, which they can't take away from you after you get your green card, and withholding of removal, which is just 51% chance, then they could try to take your status away from you.
Thanks so much, attorney. Let's try to see if we have more questions. We have one from Agnes. Which evidence is most important for a strong asylum case?
I would say your testimony. The biggest idea is that when you get in the court and they question you, are you able to testify to all the things that you've written in your application and all the documents that you've submitted? If your documents and your application don't match, that will be raised, and you will have to explain why you said you were beaten and detained in California, but you submitted a medical certificate from Texas. And there has to be an explanation why you didn't submit a medical certificate from California, and that's where it happened. So if you're able to answer that question and explain properly why that is, you'll have your best chance of winning. But that's the number one thing. Then obviously, if you can prove from letters from family members or witnesses that you were persecuted, that's very helpful.
Thank you, attorney. We have another one from Jean-Baptiste. I enter America without visa 5 years ago. Can I get an asylum so I won't be deported?
The only way you can get an asylum is if you can show a reasonable explanation why it took you more than 1 year to apply. So you will have to show that either country conditions have changed in the last 6 months to a year, or there's something like sickness, illness that kept you from applying within 1 year. Otherwise, you will have to focus on withholding of removal and convention against torture, which requires that 51%.
Okay, so this will be our last question from Isabella. What is my chance for asylum approval now compared to before?
Well, let me give you some of the numbers. So I think I was running about 75 to 80% approval rates for my cases. I think I'm down to about 55% now, trying my hardest to push them back up. The average across the country for people who are not detained in jail is 40%. And that's why you have to choose your attorney clearly or carefully. And the average for people detained in jail is about 15 to 20%. So it's a huge difference. You almost double your chances just by being out. Then by having an attorney and the right attorney, you could probably increase another 50%. So I think you really should take it seriously, choose wisely, and work hard to get all the documents, review and read everything so that you know that you don't have conflicts within your story or within the evidence that you submitted.
We can't thank you enough, Attorney Karikari. Thank you for sharing your expertise and guidance today. Your insights are invaluable for the asylum seekers trying to understand what these changes mean for their future. To our audience, thank you for spending your time with us. We hope this session gave you clarity and practical steps to prepare stronger asylum cases in 2025. Remember, you can always visit www.immigrationquestion.com to ask your immigration questions for free and connect with a licensed attorney. Many of you may qualify for a free confidential consultation. If you'd like to revisit today's session or share it with a friend, the full replay will be available on Spotify. Search Borderless Talk by immigrationquestion.com. Join us again on Friday for another timely conversation that you won't want to miss. Once again, thank you, Attorney Gerald Karikari, and thank you for everyone watching. Until next time, stay informed and stay